People everywhere are starting to listen to him. He's going on French, British, Italian, Japanese television.
This is the Wide World of Weingarten.
Wide World of Weingarten. Today I wanted to go through some listener questions that I had from earlier this week, then go through the MLB Futures markets and some bets for Friday, see what we can come up with betting-wise. So jumping right into the questions, Justin asked, any to make miss playoff futures or Astros division bets you find value in parking, cash in for the rest of the year? Yu Darvish long shot Cy Young ? So for last question first. No, Yu Darvish didn't make my list. I guess I could see he has a path to winning the same way Machado would theoretically have a path to the MVP, with the Padres finally winning the NL West this year. But I think the field for the NL Cy Young is just so deep. Alcantara, Burns, Musgrove, Wheeler, Scherzer, Gonsolin, Rodon, Aaron Nola, Max Fried being the top 9 guys or so. No, I don't see Darvish jumping into the mix, especially because Musgrove is one of his own teammates, is 4-1, and I typically don't like situations where you're competing with one of your own teammates to determine who's the best pitcher. So no, nothing on Darvish for me. And then miss playoff. I haven't really bet a ton of those since before the season. Like I took some no Reds, no playoff, minus 500 or whatever. I thought that was a good bet. Not necessarily going to park cash in the Astros, although I couldn't fault you if you decided to. I did take a couple shots on some futures recently. I took the Guardians at plus 325 and the Padres at 275. Wasn't too far off what I played the Padres preseason, so I added to some positions there. The next question was, are the Mets the team to beat in the long run? Full strength Mets, DeGrom and Max Scherzer. The Mets, I've talked about it before, they're clearly built to play playoff series baseball. They're built for the playoffs, for 7-game series. You're going to run into Scherzer and DeGrom twice, if not one of them 3 times. They have a plan, and they're building and developing, and they have a really, really deep analytics department that has come from Steve Cohen's hedge fund directly, many of them. So no expenses are being spared. I think they are closing the gap with the Dodgers. But at the moment, I would say the Dodgers and probably the Yankees are the teams to beat. But in the long run, I don't know what you're defining necessarily the long run as. But Mets are certainly going to be a top-tier contender going forward. Do you have any thoughts on what domestic books tend to be the sharpest when it comes to MLB player props? If you're talking about props specifically, I don't really have any recommendations for who's sharpest. When it comes to player futures, the player future markets, MVP, Cy Young, Rookie of the Year, I think the Superbook does the best overall at managing their markets. But sharpest, I wouldn't really have an answer there other than I would say probably Westgate, whose numbers I use for my own numbers the most. I think Westgate aligns more often than not with what I'm looking at. Or they're usually ahead of moves, I'll say. Another question. This is from Mike. He asked, not sure if I missed the question window for your next pod. You didn't. What are your thoughts on Scherzer Cy Young at 60-1? That's the FanDuel number. Superbook has him at 14. It seems like he's close to returning. Yeah, he's he might be penciled in on Sunday even. So his return, as I like to say, is imminent. Don't hate 60. I think he can jump in that race. But like I said before, Alcantara, Burns, Wheeler, Gonsolin. There's a lot of guys doing stuff. So Scherzer, it's good to have another horse in the race at a big number. 60's a good number, but he's not gonna just walk in and become the front runner. I don't think, especially if DeGrom comes back. He's throwing. We don't know how long it is till he's back, but DeGrom will definitely take some of the eyeballs off Scherzer there. The next question is, would love to hear a discussion on sizing of futures bets, pros, cons of betting to win X or staking similarly. Well, so the sizing of futures bets mostly comes down to limits and bankroll. I mean, you're also getting into credit versus post-up sort of discussions, but in general, and there has been a slight change actually recently. I'll say Will Hill is taking much bigger bets on things that they weren't in the past. But in general, I have to get some money down here, some money down there, and the whole thing with futures is the sizing is for me mostly limited to where I can bet them. You can't get unlimited money down on a future at 100 to 1 like you can, a baseball side or a total on a much more liquid market. So the pros and cons of betting to win X or staking, I think you have to know that. I think I prefer betting to win. I prefer that if I have 3 Rookie of the Year futures, they're all to win $50,000 regardless of what, it might be 30 to 1, it might be 50 to 1, it might be 10 to 1, but I want them all staked to win 50,000 or whatever the number may be. The issue is you have to know that you're going to have access to consistent limits throughout the season, because if you're in a situation where you're getting 500, all of a sudden you're getting 250, now all of a sudden you're getting 100, you can't bet the way you were necessarily betting before. And then there's always the pros and cons. Betting on credit, betting futures on credit, there's a lot of discussion about that. You have to actually trust you're going to get paid, because you don't want to hit a big future and someone's going to tell you to piss off. But typically that's really that's where you come in, and you have to be able to handicap your own relationship with the book you play at and determine if they're good, if they're good for the money that you're going to bet. But I typically prefer to bet futures on credit when I can, because it's a lot easier than posting up. You got to spend $10,000 here, $5,000 there. It adds up quickly. But I do both, just out of necessity. Then Cody asked, with Odds Boom with Odds Boom gone because of Odds Jam, and their site interface is horrible, do you use any other odds screen, or do you do it the old-fashioned way? I do not have a new Odds Boom, unfortunately. The old-fashioned way is Dawn Best. I am not actually using Dawn Best this season because the price has just gotten so out of control that I could go and lease a BMW or a Mercedes, or spend that money any multiple numbers of more valuable ways than having an odds screen. And for what I do, I don't need necessarily to see the Dawn Best screen and to see the moves. It would be useful, but I do it the old-fashioned way at this point. That might change in the future, but at the moment I just don't find it worth the money on a monthly basis to subscribe to a full price odds screen. Butterknife Bets asks, what is your first inning yes no process? Do you model it? Well, I'm just not going to give everything away here. So my answer to that is, if you want to get good at first innings, find the people who are the worst at first innings and do the opposite of what they do. It's a great place to start. It's one of the things I like to do. Although I always find that if I spend too much time trying to find stuff to fade, it becomes counterproductive. But Find the first inning people on Twitter or wherever that are just absolutely awful and have no clue what they're doing, and start doing the opposite of them. See if you could figure it out at all from there. Steve in Vegas, would you be willing to share the factors that you take into consideration for first inning run betting? Similar question, similar answer. Do the opposite of what the dumbest people you find on Twitter do, and see if that doesn't help you get better results. As far as finding them, it's not very hard, but I'm gonna leave that to you. But yeah, really, when it comes to this stuff, just do the opposite of what the dumbest people are doing, and I think you'll start seeing slightly better results, and you could take it yourself from there. Chris asks, Harris versus Cruz, which future should we bet? Well, it depends what the odds are. Cruz 4.5 to 1 is not a very good bet. Harris 6 to 1, 8 to 1, 9 to 1. Not necessarily the greatest bet. I'd probably take Harris if we can get 9 to 1 right now. But in which future should you bet? The answer is you should have listened to my podcast the last couple weeks, because I told you Harris was 75 to 1 and Cruz was 37 to 1. So if you've been listening to me at all, you are way ahead on Harris and Cruz. I wouldn't bet either now. So that's the thing. The important thing with futures is getting ahead of the moves and not betting them after stuff happens. If you're thinking about betting Harris and Cruz right now, you are way too late. You are not the first person to the summit. You're not even the 100th person to the summit. So got to get faster. Jeremy Baker asked, why is Tony Gonsolin always overlooked? Is it just his lack of innings? Do you think he will start pushing further into games? I don't know about the pushing further into games, if that's a Dodgers thing or if they know there's something about him after a certain amount of pitches that he's less useful. I don't have an answer to that. I could look into it, see if there's anything with his innings or his pitch counts going up game by game or whatever. But good question. I gotta check that out some more myself. Why is he overlooked? It's just an innings thing. I mean, he's like a whole 20, 30 innings behind Sandy Alcantara, and that gap's going to keep getting larger as the season goes on. So it's going to take extraordinary numbers out of Gonsolin to be a serious contender in the Cy Young race. But that's why I bet him at 100 to 1. I wouldn't necessarily bet him at 20 to 1 or 14 to 1 or whatever he is now. But like I mentioned in the last question, if you want guys, you gotta get them at good numbers and get ahead of the moves. That's where you're gonna get the most value betting futures. Jordan asks, what's your philosophy on selling baseball cards, particularly for guys involved in awards races? Got this back from PSA last week. Not sure if I want to move it now or wait a little longer and see how the ROI Rookie of the Year race plays out. You can't see what I'm looking at. It's a picture of a PSA auto Jeremy Pena, PSA 10. My answer is for Jeremy Pena for a PSA 10. I would absolutely be selling it now because likely you're getting the top prices in the market. Jeremy Pena is very good. He might be a very good baseball player for years to come, but I hardly see the market for his cards sustaining where they're at now. And go look at, you can compare his cards to Carlos Correa's similar rookie cards or whatever, and see what those are selling for 5 years out or however many years it's been. It's been more than 5 years. But I would definitely sell it. Typically, guys I have involved in awards races, I'm probably looking to sell on the hype, because you can always buy something back. You know, you can always buy a card back on the open market, unless you're selling a 101 or a PSA 10, you know, that's something out of 5 or something that you know you'll never see again. Then you have you know, much more serious questions to ask yourself. And if you're selling stuff like that, you probably don't need my advice on how to sell it. So yeah, I'd definitely be selling here just because I know I can always buy this stuff back. Lou asks, a bio about how you got involved in sports betting, your past experience would be cool if this was not already covered in another podcast. That's just not an answer that would be fun or enjoyable for anybody to listen to, nor is it extraordinary or very interesting. So I don't really have much of a bio to give you other than I started gambling in college because it was more fun than going to class for the most part, and that was that. So it's not really an interesting story or anything that nobody else has ever told before. So that's all I got there. BJ asked, "What do I do with all my Cruz Bowman Chrome cards? Sell, wait, middle it?" I don't know how you middle cards necessarily, but I would definitely, if you have stuff that you could sell at a massive profit, I'm talking, multiple times, multiple, 2-3x what you purchased it at least. I would definitely sell right now because you can always buy something back. Or if you wanted to middle it, I don't know exactly what middling means, but like if I had some real nice stuff that was up, 3 times, 5 times, I'd sell it and I'd go and buy some ungraded O'Neal Cruz stuff and send it in to get graded. Recycle the whole process. But if you have cards that are of a guy who's real hyped right now, you should almost always be selling them, just because if you're not selling, then you're just sitting on your inventory and you're a card collector. You're just a collector at that point. Nathan asked, Judge hit 60 home runs, question mark. Yeah, he could. I think he comes up probably just short, 50, mid 50s, 58, probably higher, or higher probability than 60 plus. But I mean, the way he's hitting, it's definitely possible. You just kind of run into the problem that if he does keep hitting like this, it's likely down the stretch he's going to see less hittable pitches, and that'll probably kind of screw his numbers up a little bit. So I think that's all the questions, and then I'm going to take a break real quick, and I'm going to come back and go through the futures markets and talk about all the fun stuff that's been happening this week with player futures. So stay tuned for that. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, Wide World of Weingarten. Second half of the show, going through the futures markets here. Starting with the big one, the MVP market. Paul Goldschmidt's still the favorite. Mookie Betts 3-1 behind him. Pete Alonso 9-2. Manny Machado 6-1. Bryce Harper 8-1. Those are the main contenders. Ronald Acuna, Freddie Freeman both 25-1. Trey Turner 8-1. With the Dodgers, you always have multiple players, but you can only have one favorite from one team. Acuna probably most likely to win if any Braves player wins. I think the Braves probably have to win the division to push him higher in the race, but he drifted all the way out to 80-1. He's back to 25. Not pictured in this race is Juan Soto, who is sort of floundering as his Nationals continue to have another very poor season. In the American League, where I'm sure you have, what you're dying to hear me talk about, Aaron Judge, -110. He got as high as +125 earlier this week. Either moved or got bet back to even money than -110 pretty quickly. Shohei Ohtani, 4-1. Yordan Alvarez, new third favorite, 9-2. Jose Ramirez, fourth, 7-1. Mike Trout, Rafael Devers, also 7-1. Vlad, 20. Byron Buxton, 100. Buxton's not winning. There's actually talk of him going on the injured list. He was an early guy that I kind of singled to fade. Vlad, I would definitely bet Vlad at 50-1, 60-1, higher. Not going to bet him at 20-1. Does not look like it's going to be his year. Rafael Devers, he has a case for being the best all-around hitter, third baseman in the American League this year. Only problem is he's got Jose Ramirez kind of standing in his way, and I think if you get a Ramirez-Devers showdown, Ramirez is likely going to win that. Ramirez is one of my preseason picks at 25-1. He's down to 7-1 at the Westgate, so I'm happy holding the ticket there. Mike Trout, also 7-1. I think if you think that the Angels should, if the Angels' losing streak disqualifies their players from MVP and they're not serious candidates, then I don't think Trout is a serious candidate, or I think all that stuff hurts Trout double that it hurts Ohtani. Trout's strikeout rate is incredibly high this year. It's in the 30s. He's hitting home runs, but I can't say that he's outplaying any of these other guys. Jose Ramirez, Aaron Judge, who I haven't spoken about yet, and then Yordan Alvarez, who has become the third favorite at 9-2. I mentioned him at 60-1. I got some at 60-1 on him. I was like, well, I can't not bet on one of my favorite players at a huge number, so I'm now holding second, third, and fourth in the AL MVP race according to Westgate. But I got Yordan 60, Jose Ramirez 25, and Shohei Ohtani 4-1. He's still 4-1 at Westgate. But quick word on Alvarez, who might be the best hitter, all-around hitter in the American League right now. Again, no disrespect to Aaron Judge, who is an incredibly good player, but just watch Yordan Alvarez at bat. He's sent a line drive into the second deck. He had 213-mile-an-hour exit velocities. I believe it was it 2 days ago against Jameson Taillon. Have to forgive me if I'm getting the games flipped here. And he had a 3-run home run in yesterday's game, although the Astros did not hold on and win. Aaron Judge getting the game-winning RBI there. I think Yordan Alvarez is the best all-around hitter in baseball at the moment, and it's so hard because the next two guys, you got Aaron Judge, who's the favorite, -110, a very deserving favorite. But I don't know. I'm trying to say these things in a polite way and not repeat myself so often, but we're going to end up having an entire summer of this repeat conversation, and it's the same stupid conversation that I had to sit through last summer with Judge being replaced with Vlad Guerrero, and Vlad Guerrero versus Shohei Ohtani, and how deserving is Vlad Guerrero, and there was all talks about potentially getting a triple crown, which never manifested, but I just don't know how many times I can repeat myself without, kind of making it seem like I'm insane. Ohtani was the unanimous MVP last year. The voters, the Baseball Writers Association of America voters, voted, literally unanimously that Shohei Ohtani was the best player in baseball. And here we are now, a year later, and he is still the best player in baseball, if not a better player than he was last year. He's had some bad starts. I mean, nobody's perfect, not even Shohei Ohtani, but he's got a sub-3 ERA. He's still on pace to hit, 20, 25, probably even closer to 30 home runs. His numbers across the board are elite. He has the same amount of strikeouts as Sandy Alcantara, who's a 2-1 favorite for the NL Cy Young right now. And he's also, batting leadoff or second or third practically every day. He's rarely ever out of the lineup. He's an above-average hitter. He's a power hitter. You routinely see him on top of the velocity charts, the exit velocity charts, the pitch velocity charts whenever on a daily basis. And it's like I don't want to spend every podcast and every appearance on VSiN saying, "Oh, Ohtani's great," but it's just a matter of betting and just a from the betting perspective and the perspective of the betting market. Ohtani was the unanimous MVP last year. The voters change year over year, but it's the same voting pool. It's just different BBWA voters. But we have a pretty good idea how the voters view Ohtani based off his unanimous MVP. And he has some bad weeks. The Angels obviously had that bad streak. He scuffles for a bit, has a bad pitching start, 2 bad pitching starts, looked bad at Yankee Stadium. Then he comes and does that thing he does where he, 2 home runs, 8 RBIs. Next day takes the mound, throws 8 innings, shutout, 13 strikeouts. And, I can just run through another 10 string of tweets that, Babe Ruth's the only other player that did this. Nobody's done this in their career. First player since 1920 to do these things on back-to-back days. I mean, there's just no conceivable argument from anybody who has any fucking clue that Shohei Ohtani is not the best player in baseball. No disrespect to Aaron Judge, who's also having an incredible season. He's hitting home runs at a Babe Ruthian rate. He might hit close to 60. He might have a 200 WRC plus, whatever. He's going to have a 9 WAR season. Vlad only had a 6.8 WAR season last year. Whatever. You know, you're going to say all this stuff. But again, barring injury, Shohei Ohtani is the only guy that goes out there on a weekly basis and sets records that haven't been broken or have never been set before. So my stance stays the same. Judge is doing things that make him the best offensive player this year, just like Vlad was doing things that made him best offensive player last year. These are very good players. They're very great players, elite players. They deserve all the money they're going to get, but I'm absolutely not convinced that Aaron Judge is even the best hitter in the American League. I think Yordan Alvarez is, and neither one of those guys throws a pitch for their team. Neither one of those guys carries a team the way Shohei Ohtani does. And at this point, there's literally nothing Ohtani could do other than fly the team plane or drive the bus that could be him putting any more into the team and into the Angels winning. So I think really the thing that would push the Angels over the top and would guarantee Ohtani a second MVP is a playoff spot. At this point, it's likely going to be wild card. I highly doubt that they're going to catch the Astros. I think actually the Rangers have a better chance at catching the Astros for the division. Not that I would necessarily bet that, but there's just no doubt in my mind that Ohtani's the best player in baseball, and I don't see any large amount of BBWAA voters seeing this the other way unless he's injured. Maybe Judge gets a triple crown or something that changes things, but I don't see the home runs being enough to really flip anything this year. What I do think is that Judge is getting what I've been now calling the pinstripe premium because he's in New York, and I think obviously the continued team success, they're really just stomping other teams' faces in. That's really, really helping Judge. But I think this market has Judge's price depressed and has him as an odds-on favorite because they don't want to take more money on him, which I think is kind of foolish. I would absolutely want to keep booking Judge at even money plus 105. Take a lot of money in, offset what hopefully is going to be a large amount of Ohtani money coming in, because I'm going to bet it again. I know others of my friends are going to continue to bet it. But you could still get Ohtani 4-1, which is his preseason price. I think that's crazy. A lot of times you don't get bets as good as this, So when you do get a bet this good this late in the season, it's worth considering how much money you really want to put on it. And for me, it's gonna probably be a substantial number. Nothing stupid, but I'm very happy to add to Ohtani here at 4-1. If I can get 5-1 or higher, even better. But I plan on betting more money on Ohtani in the coming week or two. So that's my AL MVP breakdown. It's still Ohtani's award, and it's going to continue to be his award every year. He continues to do this. It's just a question of whether or not the bookmakers finally recognize this after this year, or if we get another opportunity to bet Ohtani at a large number next year. So that's, like I said, my AL MVP analysis is I'm going to bet more money on Ohtani when I get the opportunity to do so. The NL Cy Young I mentioned earlier, Alcantara is in the lead there. He leads the majors in innings pitched. Doing a pretty good job. There are some guys that can overtake him. Corbin Burns still in the race. Joe Musgrove had his worst start of the season last year. I'm not sold on him. Zach Wheeler, he continues to put up lots of innings. The Westgate has aggressively dropped Max Scherzer from 12-1. FanDuel still has him at 60, so he's fifth. You can get him at 60-1. I think that's reasonable. Tony Gonsolin 12-1. Not necessarily worth betting, but I'm happy holding 100-1 there. I think from any farther down, I would probably look at Aaron Nola or Max Fried. Not really looking to get involved on anybody at a bigger number than that. I think DeGrom is probably dead. I like DeGrom, but I'm not gonna bet more money on him. He's 1,000 to 1 at at the Westgate. So if you want to put a couple dollars on 1,000 to 1, that's not the worst thing you can do. I've already bet him at 100 and 300 and 500, so it's just throwing more money on him. I'm not gonna do that. Someone else could though. What's his name? Clayton Kershaw also there at 30 to 1. Don't count him out. I don't know if he'll get close to enough innings, but maybe he goes on a Justin Verlander like run and gets some of that old guy love. In the AL Cy race, McClanahan's still the favorite. Verlander's second. He pitches against the Yankees today, so an interesting start for him coming up. Alex Manoah, he's 8 to 1, tied third favorite with Dylan Cease. I think Cease is dead money. Garrett Cole, also 8 to 1. I think that's an interesting bet. He's probably gonna end up finishing the season around half that. Nestor Cortez 8 to 1, I think, is dead money. Logan Gilbert 10 to 1, too short. I bet that way higher, but I don't think he's going to win this year. I think he's a contender for future seasons. And then Shohei Ohtani back in the race at 14 to 1 at the Westgate. Those numbers drifted out as high as 30, which I bet before the season. I'm happy to be holding Ohtani there. But I think Ohtani's got a lot of work left to do to really seriously jump in the Cy Young race. I think he's got 2-3 starts before the All-Star break. Let's see how he does in those before I really get reinvested in an Ohtani Cy Young. The AL Rookie of the Year presumably is going to be Julio Rodriguez unless somebody else makes an incredibly large second half run. Jeremy Pena drifted out to about plus 325 at Westgate, I think. If he gets back to double digits, I might bet a little bit more on him, but I don't see voters voting for him over Julio Rodriguez. I just don't. Even when people are like, well, his WAR is higher, I don't give a shit. Bobby Witt, I think, is probably sexier than Jeremy Pena. If Witt gets to double digits, I might add some Witt just so I'm not Wittless. I do have some of his cards, though. Riley Green, Shane Baz, both 25 to 1. Baz has flipped Joe Ryan as the starting pitcher most likely to win the AL Rookie of the Year. I agree with that. I don't think either's going to win, though. Not sure Riley Green has enough games in him to out-hit or outplay Julio Rodriguez, but it is interesting. I did bet some Riley Green at like 40 to 50 to 1 before the season. Not a ton, though. And then Adley Rutschman, he's still there. I don't think he's going to win, but he's a future superstar, most likely. The National League, we got Mackenzie Gore, 9 to 2 favorite with Michael Harris. I think Gore could potentially have a bounce back start versus the Phillies today, but the Phillies also with their monster starting lineup could really make a bad time for him, and a bad start here would be 3 in a row and would really knock Gore out of serious contention. Michael Harris is playing plus defense. He's been a very good hitter since being called up straight from AA to Atlanta. Definitely a contender. Would not bet him at 9 to 2. Nolan Gorman and O'Neal Cruz both at 5 to 1. If I had to bet somebody, those guys would probably be on my list today. 5 to 1 there. Cruz, he has 7 RBIs, I think, in 4 games since being called up. He's a highlight reel every time he touches the ball, whether he's hitting or fielding. Really like O'Neal Cruz. It's skeptical to me that he will put up the numbers overall, but I think highlight-wise, he's going to be one of the most popular guys rest of the season. Unfortunately, if you're just deciding to bet O'Neal Cruz now, you missed all the big numbers. I was recommending him at 32, 37, 30, whatever, last couple weeks. So always got to get ahead of these moves. And then Spencer Strider, he's 7 to 1. I don't think he's going to get enough innings to be a serious contender. Alec Thomas, don't think he's going to end up being a serious contender on the Diamondbacks. He puts up good numbers, though. I think a lot of other guys are going to have to get hurt for Thomas to be a top-tier guy. And then Saya Suzuki and Brendan Donovan. Donovan, I think he leads NL rookies in WAR right now, but he's more of a super utility guy, and he only has 2 barrels on the season, so Not excited about him. And then Saya Suzuki, he's 14 to 1. Let's see how high we can get that number. If it gets to like 20 to 1 or something, I might bet $500 on it. I like Suzuki. He got started off hot and then got hurt. Could come back, could be hot again, but he was 3 to 1, 4 to 1 before the season. You're seeing this number continue to drift. I think you'll see it drift more. I think that's all I got for Rookie of the Year stuff. Actually, C.J. Abrams, he's the last guy on the list. He hasn't done anything yet. Still waiting. Might have to wait till next season for him to break out, but the number got as high as 250 to 1 on him at FanDuel. It's back down to 18 now at the Westgate, so maybe you got some value there. But yeah, I think that's all I got. So that's my futures sort of roundup. What's going on? I think the conclusion is I'm going to bet more money on Ohtani. I don't know about what you guys are going to do, but I'm fairly confident that in this situation, it's a bet that warrants more money on what I think should be a shoo-in for MVP. Today, found three bets I like today so far that I could share with you guys. Sometimes I get bets that lines move too much to really share. But Phillies money line, I got the Phillies minus 123. Got the Red Sox Guardians over 9 at minus 115. I got the Mets Marlins yes score first inning. I found a plus 120 already before recording this, so I would not be surprised if you see a plus 120, a plus 130, even a plus 135 before the game starts. A lot of squares will be piling into this no, just based on the pitchers or whatever. Let's take their money. And then Saturday, I got the first game of the College World Series. I bet Ole Miss under 11 minus 120. I think that game's probably going to 10.5 or even 10. So yeah, that's a added College World Series bonus bet for Saturday. Phillies money line, Red Sox Guardians over 9, and Mets Marlins yes score. Those are the good bets that I like today. Thanks for listening, and let's see how these player races shake out this weekend.